Oleksandr Usyk versus Daniel Dubois 2, the rematch Dubois demanded after the controversial low blow in their first fight and his then falling short of trying to get that victory. Since then, Dubois has been on a mission. He captured the vacant IBF belt, defeated Filip Hrgović to be elevated to IBF world champion, and then knocked out Anthony Joshua to prove he's far from done. Now Daniel Dubois is back, stronger, sharper, and out to avenge the loss he believes was stolen from him. But here's the real question. Did Daniel Dubois even win a single round this time? I scored the fight round by round using the 4 real boxing judging criteria: clean punching, effective aggression, ring generalship, and defense. No commentary bias, no crowd noise, just truth. Let's find out if Daniel Dubois even won a round against Oleksandr Usyk in their illustrious rematch. Round 1. Clean punching. Daniel Dubois landed 8 punches in the first round, not too shabby, but Oleksandr Usyk landed 15. Clean punching goes to Oleksandr Usyk, 10-9. Effective aggression. Daniel Dubois was the aggressor for the first 30 seconds until Oleksandr Usyk's fantastic movement, varied defense, and hard landed jabs took Daniel Dubois away from being able to move aggressively forward again until the last 40 seconds of the round. Daniel Dubois was pretty effective in his aggression and landing some punches, but Oleksandr Usyk negated a lot of them. Oleksandr Usyk, on the other hand, was less aggressive, focusing on making Daniel Dubois miss, but was effective. The left hook at 15 seconds remaining to the head seemed to really get Daniel Dubois' attention and demonstrate a shift to harder punching from Oleksandr Usyk. Effective aggression, 9 points to Daniel Dubois, 8 points for aggressiveness, 10 for effectiveness to Oleksandr Usyk. Ring generalship. Daniel Dubois came out trying to be aggressive and land punches. Oleksandr Usyk soon turned the round into a pace and tone where he controlled all the distance, kept Daniel Dubois' attacks off rhythm, and dissuaded him not only with defensive craft, but with perhaps harder punches than expected. Daniel Dubois did land some good punches, but mostly when Oleksandr Usyk decided that the distance would be closer. Ring generalship, 10-9, Oleksandr Usyk. Let's talk defense, and you see a lot more defense from Oleksandr Usyk. In fact, a surprisingly varied defense for a heavyweight. Daniel Dubois not too shabby. You can see all those defensive moves on your screen. As we categorize them, the high guard goes to Usyk, 10-8, ducking 8 points to each fighter, bobbing and weaving 10-8 Usyk, parrying 9 points to each fighter, blocking 10-9 Usyk, footwork 10-8 Usyk, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm spits out 9.562 points for Oleksandr Usyk, 8.829 points to Daniel Dubois, normalizing to the 10-point must system, a comfortable 10-9 round for Oleksandr Usyk. And as we do in our fight analyses, we'll take a look at the running score as we go through the rounds. Again, I have it 10-9 so far. Judge at ringside Benoit Roussel gave that round to Oleksandr Usyk 10-9. Judge Patrick Morley also gave it to Usyk 10-9, and Judge Mike Ross also gave that round to Oleksandr Usyk 10-9. Cumulative punch stats don't matter as we're scoring because scoring's done round by round, but for those of you who are interested, 15 clean landed punches to 8 in favor of Oleksandr Usyk. Round 2. Clean punching. Oleksandr Usyk lands 18 clean punches, as you can see the variety of them on your screen here, to Daniel Dubois' 8 clean landed punches. In scoring clean punches, 10-8 Oleksandr Usyk. Effective aggression. Oleksandr Usyk was somewhat aggressive throughout, meaning he retreated much less in this round, but made the most of the spots when he decided to attack. They were almost all effective. Daniel Dubois may have had more aggressive bursts, but they were less frequent, and he was visibly made to reverse his motion and go backward when Oleksandr Usyk tagged him with about 12 seconds remaining. Effective aggression, 9 points for aggressiveness, 8 for effectiveness to Daniel Dubois, 9 for aggressiveness, 10 for effectiveness to Oleksandr Usyk. Ring generalship. Although Daniel Dubois landed some well-timed punches, Oleksandr Usyk was generally slippery and hard for Daniel Dubois to find solidly with a couple exceptions. Oleksandr Usyk negated Daniel Dubois' aggressive bursts and thus controlled action and tone, landing precision punches when he threw. Ring generalship, 10-9, Oleksandr Usyk. Let's talk defense. And more of the same here, Dubois doing a lot of good defensive movement, but Usyk doing much more of it, as you can see, a lot of high guard blocking and stepping away. Categorizing those defensive movements, high guard, 10-8 Oleksandr Usyk, ducking 10-7 Oleksandr Usyk, bobbing and weaving 9 points to each fighter, parrying 9-8 Daniel Dubois, blocking 9 points to both fighters, footwork 10-8 Oleksandr Usyk, and clinching, neither clinch, 7 points to both fighters. As we take the 4 scoring categories together, the algorithm spits out 9.667 points to Oleksandr Usyk to 8.395 points for Daniel Dubois, a wide margin of victory in round 2, 10-9 Oleksandr Usyk. And as we have another look at the running score, I now have the fight 20-18 after giving that round to Oleksandr Usyk. All 3 judges at ringside also gave that round to Oleksandr Usyk, and they all have the fight 20-18. Cumulative punches now landed for Oleksandr Usyk 33, for Daniel Dubois 16. Round 3. Oleksandr Usyk lands 15 punches in round 3, and Daniel Dubois lands 7. You can see them all listed on your screen here, and therefore for landing more than twice as many punches, Oleksandr wins clean punching 10-8. Effective aggression. Daniel Dubois was much more effectively aggressive than in previous rounds. He moved forward and attacked aggressively for maybe 3/4 of the round, keeping Oleksandr Usyk on the defensive for the most part, even though Oleksandr Usyk landed many more clean punches. Effective aggression, 10 points to Daniel Dubois, Dubois, 8 for aggressiveness, 10 for effectiveness to Oleksandr Usyk. Ring generalship. Daniel Dubois dictated the pace and tone in this round. Oleksandr Usyk was trying to escape the aggressive attacks in the first half and settle down a little more comfortably in the second half. Oleksandr Usyk landed twice as many punches, but he did it from a position of excellent defense while working within Daniel Dubois' pace and tone. Ring generalship, 10 points to Daniel Dubois, 9 for action, 8 for tone to Oleksandr Usyk. And defense is more the same. A lot of good defense by Daniel Dubois, but way more by Oleksandr Usyk. He's a wizard of defense in this fight, as he is in many of his fights. You can see all the defensive moves listed on your screen, and as we categorize them, high guard blocking, 10-7 Oleksandr Usyk, ducking, 9-8 Oleksandr Usyk, bobbing and weaving, 9-8 Daniel Dubois, parrying, 9-8 Daniel Dubois, blocking, 10-9 Oleksandr Usyk, footwork, 10-9 Oleksandr Usyk, and clinching, again, 7 points to both fighters for not defensively clinching. Taking the 4 scoring categories together, the algorithm spits out a razor-thin 9.155 points for Oleksandr Usyk to 9.057 points to Daniel Dubois. Again, very close in this round, but I gave it to Oleksandr Usyk, 10-9. Checking out the running score, I now have the fight 30-27 in favor of Oleksandr Usyk. Judge at ringside Benoit Roussel gave the round also to Oleksandr Usyk and also has it 30-27. Judge Patrick Morley and Judge Mike Ross both gave this round to Daniel Dubois, 10-9, and have the fight 29-28 Oleksandr Usyk. And as we take a look at the cumulative landed punches now, it's 48 for Oleksandr Usyk to 23 for Daniel Dubois. Round 4. Clean punching. Oleksandr Usyk lands 16 punches in this round to Daniel Dubois' 4. A great disparity here, and therefore I had to give clean punching 10-7 to Oleksandr Usyk. Effective aggression. Oleksandr Usyk was easily the more consistent effective aggressor in this round. Daniel Dubois was effective in small spurts, but Oleksandr Usyk's attack was more urgent, explosive, and used opportunistic timing to land jabs at moments and from positions when and where Daniel Dubois wouldn't expect them. And for all of you that have been waiting for it, the controversial low blow, not low blow reemerges in this round, as you can see on your screen here. For what it's worth, I thought this body punch was on the belt line and legal this time around, even though Oleksandr Usyk mildly objected. Effective aggression, 10-9, Oleksandr Usyk. Ring generalship. Oleksandr Usyk controlled pace and tone for most of the round. He had Daniel Dubois changing directions, trying to find him, and made Daniel Dubois miss most of his punches, even at times when Daniel Dubois seemed to have Oleksandr Usyk totally cornered. The pace control was most evident when Oleksandr Usyk still had the energy and strategic thinking to land jabs when Daniel Dubois, and mostly anyone else, would think the exchange was over. Daniel Dubois tried to push the pace at times, but was never able to control it. There was even a time when I saw Oleksandr Usyk measuring Daniel Dubois and perhaps noticing that he wasn't moving his head. Maybe a premonition for the 5th round coming up. Ring generalship, 10-9, Oleksandr Usyk. Let's talk defense, and a little more defense from Daniel Dubois here, but still an amazing amount of varied defense from Oleksandr Usyk. Categorizing those moves, 10-8 high guard Oleksandr Usyk, ducking 9 points to both fighters, bobbing and weaving 10-8 Oleksandr Usyk, parrying 9-8 Oleksandr Usyk, blocking 10-8 Daniel Dubois, footwork 10-8 Oleksandr Usyk, and clinching, there was one in this round by Daniel Dubois, 8-7. And as we take a look at the 4 scoring categories together, the algorithm spits out an almost perfect 9.8 points for Oleksandr Usyk in his wide margin of victory in this round, 8.286 points for Daniel Dubois, normalizing to the 10-point must system, an easy 10-9 round for Oleksandr Usyk. And then suddenly, all of this stuff happened in round 5. As Daniel Dubois approached, he got caught with a right hook to the head and went down, knocked down number 1. To his credit, Daniel Dubois did get up from that extremely well-timed right hook and continued fighting. He came forward aggressively, but got caught again, this one with a left hook. And as you take a look at the image on your screen, you'll see the extreme leverage with which Oleksandr Usyk landed this left hook. It was amazingly well-timed and hard shot. And down goes Daniel Dubois again for the 2nd time. And this image here looks like his realization that this isn't going to happen for him tonight. However, he does try to get up. The referee calls it off, and no argument from Daniel Dubois that I could see. A knockout victory for Oleksandr Usyk in Usyk versus Dubois 2, the rematch. And as always, Oleksandr Usyk prays in the ring afterwards, extremely exuberant with his team, and Oleksandr Usyk is once again the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And so now the time has come to answer the question that we asked at the beginning of this fight. After going through every round and analyzing round by round by the criteria that matter, did Daniel Dubois even win a single round against Oleksandr Usyk after all of that bravado since the last fight and all of his promises to do a demolition job? No, he did not. Oleksandr Usyk won all 4 rounds leading up to the 5th round knockout. 40-36 is how I had it leading into that 5th round. So let's have a look at what the 3 judges at ringside had and see how close they were to to getting the right score. Now, when you only have 4 rounds to score, you can't be off by that much, but let's have a look anyway. All 3 judges at ringside gave round 4 to Oleksandr Usyk, and Benoit Roussel ended up with 40-36 as I did. Judge Patrick Morley had 39-37 in favor of Oleksandr Usyk, and Judge Mike Ross had a 39-37 Oleksandr Usyk. Having a look at some of the interesting analytics on the bottom of your screen, we see that the maximum number of punches landed in any round by Oleksandr Usyk was 18 to Daniel Dubois' 8. The average was 16 for Oleksandr Usyk to Daniel Dubois' 7, and the minimum number of punches landed in any round by Oleksandr Usyk, 15 to Daniel Dubois' 4. Total clean landed punches for the fight, in my view, 64 for Oleksandr Usyk to 27 for Daniel Dubois. Quite a big disparity. And the other thing I want to point out here is just look at that. The maximum number of punches in a round by Usyk, 18, the average 16, and the minimum 15. That demonstrates incredible consistency. He didn't vary much at all compared to Dubois' numbers here. So not only did he have a great strategy, he had great consistency as well. And so the winner for great judging today goes to Benoit Roussel, who got this fight scored exactly correctly. Again, the other 2 judges very close because there weren't that many rounds to score to be off by, but congratulations Benoit Roussel for getting this one perfect. And if we take another look at how close the 4 rounds were, round 1 was a comfortable win for Usyk, round 2 was a wide win for Usyk, round 3 was a razor-thin win for Usyk on my card, so I would consider that one questionable, and that's why 2 of the judges gave it to Dubois. I wouldn't have a problem with scoring it that way. And round 4, again, was a wide margin of victory for Oleksandr Usyk. And so now you know the answer to the question of, in Oleksandr Usyk versus Daniel Dubois 2, did Daniel Dubois even win a round? That's the full breakdown, every round scored using the only 4 criteria that actually matter in boxing: clean punching, effective aggression, ring generalship, and defense. If you're tired of biased takes and want real criteria-based scoring every time, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like and check out the other breakdowns appearing on your screen right now. I've scored every major fight using the same no-nonsense system. Make sure to tune in so you can see who really won.